Robert Deagle. He just won on Friday IBJJF Nationals with like 3 heel hooks in under 2 minutes total fight time.
I think it was that fast. I think it was 3 minutes.
Every
time you're making it shorter.
Total fight time. Okay. All by submission.
Yeah, it was very fast.
Yeah, we're happy to have him here. The morning session was amazing, and now we're looking forward to more. What are we doing this afternoon?
So yeah, the first thing we'll talk about is what we're going to do in this seminar. So basically, what we're going to talk about is connecting different systems. Specifically, we're going to talk about like connecting using front headlock and arm locks to connect into leg locks on the back. So basically, we're going through every single system, but we're not going into the systems individually. We're just talking about the connections, right? So, Pedro, take your lesson. Yeah. So like. We'll get into specifics, but let's just talk about some broad concepts first. So go over here. So if you think about it, actually Pedro, stand up for me. So if you think about the body, if you're planning on thinking about how you want to set up the system, you've got the legs, which is the lower body from the front for the most part. And then you've got the back, which is the upper body from the back. So that's kind of like the far end, right, of each part of the body where we have the systems. The best way to connect between these two distant ends of the body is with what's in the center, right? What's in the center? Well, we've got the front headlock, which is his neck from the front, and then the arms, okay? From the front. So you use these two and you can connect really well into the legs and the back. So that's going to be the main point of today's seminar, which is doing how do we use the front headlock and arm locks to connect into the back and the legs. Okay. Ultimately, in my opinion, the best attacks are when you get behind a guy, or when you go. I'm pretty biased, but when you go for heel hooks. I personally think heel hooks and knee strangles are 2 of the strongest sets of submissions we can have. But having good front headlock and arm lock attacks is going to open up more opportunities for us to get those that we wouldn't have otherwise. You know what I mean? So yeah. Anyway, so let's get started with specifics. So Pedro's going to be on his knees here. We're going to just do a really basic front headlock entry, but it's one that I still use, and I think it has a lot of utility for good leg lockers. So, how many times have you guys tried to leg lock somebody and he brings his head really low? You're like, okay, I can't. It's going to be hard to elevate the guy now. Like when he's giving you it, his head comes up. This happens to me all the time. It's hard to elevate him, but now he's giving you a front headlock entry. So what we do is we start off by gripping the wrists. Then I'm going to grip a collar tie and I grip the tricep to be on either side, of course, right? So we grip the collar tie and the tricep, and so stay right there. We're gonna, if I'm going on this side, this foot's gonna go flat. So that leg's gonna post. All right, and then I'm gonna heist up. Basically, I'm basically doing a technical stand-up. So we're gonna heist up. And I pass off the collar tie right into a grip on the chin. Okay? Grip the chin. So we're going to snap them down. Okay, so I'll just come on this side so you guys can see. So when we make our front headlock, what I want to see you guys do is take one hand and cup his chin, okay? And the other hand, we're going to grab the tricep, okay? Now my shoulder should be right here at the crown of his head, right? If your shoulder is too far forward, I can't stop him from coming towards me, and he could go for a single leg and take me down. If my shoulder is too far back, I don't really have any control of his head, and he can just pull it out. So you want to be right here. So now if he drives into me, my shoulder drives into my left shoulder drives into his center, the center of his shoulders basically, and I've got my grip on his chin and his tricep. That'll stop him from pulling away. Okay. So we're going to start with an open front headlock. All right. So we're here once again. He's really low. He's trying not to get leg locked. Okay. If I just insist on trying to get to the legs, it's going to be really hard, and honestly, if I try to elevate him here, he's probably going to body lock me. Yeah, that's no good, right? So it's tough to elevate a guy with his hips back and his head low like this. Okay, so we're like this. One of my favorite things to do when we see this is get a hold of the wrists. You can either get the wrists or the palms, whichever available to you. I just want to make sure he can't get grips on my legs. If he can grip my legs, it's going to be hard for me to heist, and then he can lift them up. This isn't the worst thing in the world. Obviously, there's a lot of good things we can do here, but now he's dictating the pace. If I'm going to go to a supine guard, I want it to be of my choice that I did it. I don't want him to dictate whether I do it or not. So I keep some kind of grip on his his arms, so he's unable to gain access to my ankles. And now we go into our heist. We catch the front headlock. And we make sure everything is strong, so he can't drive into me, and everything is strong, so he can't pull away. Okay, make sense, guys? All right, let's get started. 1, 2, 3. Okay, a very good question about getting up. Okay, like sometimes people get confused about heisting because there are two main types of heists, and sometimes people mix them up. And it's good to understand the different types of heists and how we use each of them. Okay, so what we look at first is a post leg heist, where we have one leg that posts. Okay, off of my post leg, I put weight on that. I pummel this. I mean, it seems so simple, right? But like, it's important to understand this versus the other type of heist. So again, we have a post. That's my post leg. Okay, and this leg pummels, and I have my post leg heist. The second type of heist is a drive leg heist, where you guys may have seen like this type of action. Okay, where now instead of this like posting, it goes behind me. Okay, so the advantage of a post leg heist is it requires less space, right? So if Pedro's low and he's really close to me, if I try to drive leg heist, there's no space. I'm like basically giving my guard this. This is kind of stupid. You'd want to post here, right? But the advantage of a drive leg heist is there's more power, right? Think about it. What do you guys think is a more athletic position? This or this? Right? This is like I'm ready to like tackle him, right? So what you'll see is like a good situation for a drive leg heist would be his shoulders are back, like he's pulling back, and sometimes we were looking at a guy staying low to stop from attacking his legs, but sometimes they'll also really lean far back. Here, okay, yeah, it's hard for me to attack his legs, it's hard for me to attack the front headlock, but I can go into a drive leg, come forward and double it, and take him down. Okay, so it's a different type of heist. And they're both really good. John Satava is a black belt under Marcelo Garcia, who has an amazing drive leg heist, super good. He's very, the Marcelo guys are all about inside position. They'll elevate to try to get inside position. And what Satava will do is he'll try to get inside position. As the guy pulls back, and his shoulders come back too, he'll come up and he'll double leg the guy. Okay, and it's like a super, super strong attack. So let's give this a try, guys. Let's practice both of them. Practice the post leg heist, remember guys, post leg heist into the front headlock, and then the drive leg heist into the double. These are two different responses to someone defending elevation. Like, so let's just be clear about this. So, just so you guys understand what I'm talking about when I say elevation, like if I wanted to attack Pedro's legs, one way I can do this is like this. We talked about this a lot in the seminar this morning, right? I can go cross ashi, I can go standard ashi, depending on what he's doing, different leg attacks and go for it. That's not what we're doing today, but or in this session. But just so you guys have a frame of reference, okay? So when he defends that, usually he's going to defend it one of two ways. He's going to either get really low with his head, that's when we go post leg heist into front headlock, or he's going to lean really far back, that's when we go drive leg heist into double leg. Make sense, guys? Yes, sir. Yeah. All right, let's give it a try. 1, 2, 3. Great question. No, it's you can go the same. Yeah, the collar tie, that's the leg you're going.
See, that's my problem. Maybe. Okay. That's easier. I was trying to like come up with the collar.
Oh no, that's all for yourself.
Yeah, that's why I was like, I'm struggling.
You can do that. That's a different type of post leg heist.
Okay.
So look, I'm just showing. So this is my favorite post leg heist. This. But you can also do this. This is another type of post leg heist. We've got the post leg. The reason why I don't like this one as much is I feel like it's just too easy for me to see. Like, and then you can be okay with it. You can snap down to that. You can roll for the legs. So some people do that and are very good. That's how Mickey usually does. You're looking at Mickey, right? He'll usually heist by holding it here. Yeah, he'll always there. Yeah, keep his hand here. He'll look here. He'll come up like that, right? And I've done that before too. But my favorite is when you grab both wrists and you go like this.
Okay.
Yes. Same one. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. But you can do it the other way, but it's just different.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, like I don't know how to, I feel like I need those.
Yeah. Let me see if you do it again.
Okay. Yeah.
Shit.
That's a lot.
Yeah. Those are. Yes.
Okay. Okay.
There you go. Just keep you should go for that first before you start to try to connect them into the legs. We're going to look at connecting the front headlock into the legs. But typically I recommend going to the back first. First of all, I prefer to have the back than any other position. In jiu-jitsu, you get the most points for getting there, and you have like the highest degree of like opportunity to attack versus his like lack of opportunity to attack. Right? There's a real asymmetry there, so it's always a good position to have. So that's what we're going to look for first. Okay. So Pedro's on his knees. He's really low. I can't really start to attack his legs. It's going to be difficult. So I go here, go into my post, leg heist, and I've got a good front headlock. Now there's numerous ways we can get behind him, okay? But one of my favorites involves what we call a knee block. So I have an open front headlock right now. I've got a grip on his chin and a grip on his tricep. Okay? I'm going to connect my hands here. Typically, I won't close this sort of a front headlock for long periods of time because it gives you less control of his head. So I actually prefer to have like an open one where I can grip his chin and his tricep versus a closed one. But obviously, there's reasons to close, right? You can go for guillotine or you can do the move we're looking at now. So it's really crucial for me when I go for this knee block, go behind, that his knee and elbow stay separated. So that's why I make this palm-to-palm grip right here. Okay? Whereas now, before, I've only got one hand. I mean, I might be able to keep them apart, but if he really wants to drive it in, it can be tough. Whereas if I go here, try to bring that in here, it's much, much harder. Now, I hold it tight, and I'm going to take my left leg, and I bring it inside. Okay? So, let's just rotate this one. So, I've got my first knee block. Okay? I'm going to take my, it's kind of hard to see guys, but I'm going to take my right hand, and I'm going to grab my thigh. Okay? So, I grab my thigh. Now I take my left hand and grab the hip. We're not going to go over the top like this. I'll talk later about why. So, if anyone's a wrestler, you probably know. So, we're going to grip the hip here. Now what I'm going to do is I'll take this leg. As soon as I let go of my left thigh, I punch my other thigh in and I grip it. So there's like very minimal time when I don't have a grip holding the place. Okay, now from here, my left leg, if I can, sometimes his butt's seated back and I can't get this, but if I can, I like to step on the calf. Okay, now this hand goes under into either a seatbelt, now you can go over the top, this is safe now, or double unders. Okay, both are fine, okay? Seatbelt or double unders, okay? So, we will do that again. Yeah, we'll start with this side. So we're here, up, moving down. I connect my hands, I want to make sure he can't connect his elbow with me. And I bring my knee inside. Okay, first thing I gotta do, grab my own thigh. Okay, now my left hand is, so what I'm doing here is I'm making sure that my left hand is free, start allowing me to move around him, but I don't have an open set of wedges. I still have a closed set of wedges here. This is a closed circuit, right? So it's still really hard for him to get out. Okay, if I just went like, if I went, for instance, like here, there's nothing connecting the wedges together. So it's easy, this could work hypothetically if you're fast enough. Yeah, but he could take that, exactly, he could take an arm out, now you're like, shit, now you're in a dog fight. You know? Instead, if I hold my own thigh, now when he goes to get that arm out, he can't because the wedges are closed. So I grip here. I don't want you guys to go here. The reason for this is that if he takes this arm and he goes over my elbow, yeah, or he can do that as well, yep. He can go either over the elbow, or he can grip like so. Both are gonna control my elbow. Now he rolls over this shoulder. This is called a Peterson roll. You could try to connect this into a crucifix, so it's not the end of the world per se. It's definitely not something I want to like allow him to do to me, right? If I want to go to a crucifix, again, that's something I'm gonna want to do like on my own volition. And I want someone to put me there, you know, of their volition, right? So we want to avoid it if we can. Okay? So we don't want to reach. We don't want to reach. We don't want to reach too deep. This is a very common beginner mistake. You'll get away with it a lot. You'll do this and be like, oh, Rob's an idiot. This is much better. That one guy's gonna hit you with a Peterson and you're like, oh, okay, that's good. So get this grip on the hip. Here he can't Peterson roll you and you still have a very solid control. Okay? Now what I'm gonna do is I want to have a very minimal time. So right now my left knee is my knee block. I want my right knee to be my knee. So I've got to slice this leg in. So I'm gonna let go of my thigh, but it's basically for like half a second. It's very, very brief. You want to make sure you get that in there and you grip your thigh right away. Now, if you want, you could go right back into a pretty strong guillotine. This is definitely a nasty guillotine. And he's going to be aware of that, which is good for us. It's going to help us get towards the back. And now, I would usually prefer to go for the back because I honestly just prefer it overall. But just so you know that the front headlock guillotine is there, okay? So now I take this arm, I go over, or I go under. The advantage of going over, okay, is that now you can start looking for strangles immediately. The advantage of going under is this is a little more stable, right? So if you're here, there are some things you can do to buck your balls. For instance, if he goes to a 4-point position, you could fall off, right? Whereas if you go double under, he goes to a 4-point, you're not going to fall off and you get to attack him. Okay? If you're going to go seatbelt, if you ever see him start to rise to a 4-point, just right away take this under. Okay? So just so you guys know. And we end up in this really good turtle position here, ready to start looking to expose his legs to throw arms. Okay? To get the back. Make sense, guys? Yes? Alright. Do you guys want to see it again? Yes. Do you want to see it? Okay. So, beginning we're here. So, gripping on my thigh and gripping on the hip. Okay? Now, I'm going to very quickly switch my legs. So I still have a knee block, but I have this leg behind to start looking to threaten the turtle position. Switch the other here. Honestly, guys, my preference is this, the seatbelt. If I can get this foot on the calf, it's very hard for him to rise to a 4-point. He goes to rise to a 4-point, we're gonna go to rise. We're gonna start to look at getting our hooks in. It's really, really tough. But if I want you guys to know that if you do ever feel him rising to that 4-point, you gotta go double unders. The seatbelt is pretty bad in a 4-point. You're most likely gonna slide over. Make sense? A question? Like your arm? I think you'll reach it. It's not that far. Yeah. We'll see. I'll come over and look at it. If you can't, there's many other ways you can go behind. So if you really feel like you absolutely can, a different way to go behind is like so. You can go an arm drag go behind, or an arm block go behind. So there's more than one way to do this, obviously. I just like the knee block because it's the most control. You know what I mean? Like an arm block go behind, a lot of it relies on speed. You gotta just be faster than my guy. An arm drag go behind, I think, is less speed reliant. It's still solid, but it's not as, there isn't as much like static control as with the knee block go behind. I really think the knee block go behind is, in my opinion, it's the gold standard of go behinds. But I mean, you know, really more so for jiu-jitsu. Like you don't see knee block go behinds in wrestling. You see more like arm drag or arm block go behinds. Knee block go behinds are better for jiu-jitsu. It's a slower pace than other wrestling. So yeah, it just depends. Does that make sense? Yeah. I mean, if you really can't get it, we'll see. We'll modify it. Okay. Any other questions, guys? All right. So 1, 2, 3. All right. So okay. So these guys asked. What are your names? Jonathan. John. There you go. John and John asked a very good question about the sequence. So let's look at when I come up here, and the whole goal we have throughout this knee block go behind is inhibiting Pedro's ability to connect his elbow and his knee. Okay? Alright? So what do we do if he does a good job? Once I get to this point, I've got my initial knee block. And my goal is to switch to my other knee block. Well, what do we do if he manages, as we do this, to connect there? Okay? First of all, let's talk about what the risk is, like why you want that second knee block. So the whole reason for getting the second knee block, okay, is that if I don't get it, right now, nothing is stopping Pedro from rolling over this shoulder and re-guarding. Now, granted, you're on top, so it's not necessarily a loss. If this is a match, you may very well have just swept the guy. Now you got 2 points. You work from here. Could still be a win, right? But we always want to keep in mind we have 2 primary goals when we're attacking the upper body in jiu-jitsu. Our first goal is to put his hips down on the mat. So we succeeded in that goal. But our second goal is to attain back exposure. Okay, and usually that's the harder one to gain back exposure against good people. Actually, it really depends on the rule set, to be honest. Like sub only, it's really hard to get the back, but points sometimes it's easier to get the back than the hips on the mat. So yeah, it changes depending on the context. But regardless, these are our two goals, right? If I have a situation where I'm close to getting his back, right? I don't want to give that out. Even if I do get my other goal. If you get the other goal, that's okay. You can now work to get the back. But if you get the back and you have a strong turtle, it's very easy to break him down to his hips then, okay? Which is what we're going to look at later on. So you don't want to have to go back to looking to the back if you can, okay? So anyway, so again, we're here. I get my first knee block, and now this time he does a really good job of blocking that, okay? So what we gotta do right away, we recognize, okay, I missed my second knee block. It's not the end of the world. What you gotta do right away is take a seatbelt, okay? If you, the race is this. He's trying to roll over this shoulder. Yep, he right there, he just won the race, right? And regard, okay? As I'm trying to get this arm over the top. If I can get that arm over the top, I can follow him with my hips and throw my hooks in, okay? If he can roll over this shoulder before, yeah, I mean, like, he just beat me there, right? He might even get on top of me if something like that happens, right? So as soon as you're, that's not here. As soon as you're here, you're like, oh man, I missed the second knee block. Right away, come behind, take a seatbelt. Don't try to get a body lock. You're not gonna, it's probably, maybe you can't even get skinny arms, but it's probably gonna be hard to fit that arm there. So, bang, go seatbelt. Now here, once you have a seatbelt, if he rolls, just slide your knee up, and you're gonna take his back. Okay, we'll look at this in detail more later on, that back take from Turtle. But just know, in that situation, once you get the seatbelt, you really, in my opinion, should not be rolling. It's not really a smart move on his part. He's basically giving up the back. Okay, so one more time. So here, I succeed in initially separating his knee and elbow, and I get my first knee block. Okay, but now, let me get the full thing correctly this time. So here, now here, there's no roll over that shoulder, because if he even does try to roll over that shoulder, he's just going to run to a guillotine. And then what you can also do is, hook the guillotine, you can chain into the back. Okay, so yeah, it's not a good idea for him to roll over that shoulder. If you get once you get the second knee block, you have his back. You know, or it's either that or he's giving you a guillotine. You know what I mean? And most people are not going to do that. So here, you basically have the back. Okay, but if he goes here, now here, this is not. You don't really have a guillotine. Because like, look, I don't have this arm trap, right? And if I try to go for an arm in guillotine, you get hand fight it pretty easy. Oh, sorry, no arm guillotine, you get hand fight it very easy. Okay? So now here, what we gotta do is I gotta recognize, okay, he's gonna roll over the right shoulder. I've got to go fast and get a seatbelt. Now here when he rolls, I can follow him, I get my knee high, and I throw my hooks in. Okay? Make sense, guys? Yes? Alright, let's get started with this. 1, 2, 3. Let's look at a very strong submission when the guy decides off of one of our knee blocks to drive into us and make us go for the guillotine. So we can opt to go for the guillotine. Of course, that's always a good option if you want to go with that. But sometimes we can have situations where they drive into you and they kind of force you into it. And we're going to look at how we can use the guillotine to either take the back, we kind of touched on it earlier, or to get a very, very nasty, very obscure submission. Okay? So we're in the front headlock. Okay? Now we get our second knee block, and the main reason he usually won't drive into you here is that he's running right into a guillotine. But of course, you are going to have times where the guy does do that. Okay? So let's look at how we attack him. So if I feel like he's driving towards me, I'm going to connect my hands and I get my right arm, in this case, my right arm, right? Goes all the way across his neck. It goes, and we go like this at the back of his armpit, basically. Okay? So I grab this sort of a grip with my hands. Okay? So we grab like so. Okay, now I have my right knee to his hip, and my left leg goes here, just a standard guillotine, right? And what you can do is you put the pressure on for the guillotine with the right elbow coming in, and I draw back, and we get the guillotine. What people will do to relieve the pressure is they'll start to turn the other way. So he turns that way, Yep. And as he does this, option. Option. Sorry. You okay? Sorry. Option one is we're gonna release the it's nice and light. So here, option one is we release the guillotine. We take this hand first, and we go for a seatbelt. And we take the back. The pressure of the guillotine is so intense that he wants to turn that way to give up the back. Okay, so that's option one. Another option is we're gonna take the back and keep the guillotine at the same time. So this is like a very obscure submission. I've only seen it been done twice. So Justin Rader hit it at the West Coast Trials that he won a couple years ago. Sorry, the East Coast Trials a couple years ago. He calls it the decapitator, which I think should be the name because it's awesome. And I also saw a random guy in a Chinese MMA fight hit. Okay, so anyway, so we're here. Here's what we do. So we're here. We get our second knee block. Okay, now this time he drives into me, so I catch this deep arm and guillotine. So he doesn't want to feel the pressure, so he starts to turn, and we get our hooks in. I want you guys to take. I'm releasing the hook just to be nice, so I don't hurt them. I would normally just keep the hooks in. You keep this, and if you let go of your arm, you go around the head, and you get both hooks in. Okay, now from here, you bridge in, and it's a strangle and a spine crack. Okay, you all right? Yep. Okay. I asked him beforehand, is it okay? I thought I was messing with him, but I was like, no, really, this is one you want to check. Over here, you come up, knee block one. So if the first knee block, you're not really gonna. I guess you could do it, but it would be tough because as he's driving in, you'd want to throw the second one. So it's really only something I would do when you've got the second knee block and you haven't yet transitioned to this. Okay. So we're here, he drives into me. You get that deep guillotine. Now he turns to relieve the pressure. You could simply go here and take the back, or you can go for the decapitator, get both your hooks in, and here what you would do is you bridge in. You bridge in, and you have a strangle and a very nasty spine crack. How did you feel the pressure on your back?
Lower back and my neck.
Yeah, it's awful. Yeah, guys, let's be very light with this. Very, very light. If you feel you have to, take the top hook out. Okay, as you do it. Right, and go all the way around the head. Okay, make sense, guys? All right, let's get started. 1, 2, 3. All right, guys. So now we're gonna look at connecting the front headlock into the legs. Okay, so this might seem like an unlikely combination of attacks, but I use it all the time. My last 2 tournaments, I used it. Did anybody see my? I know you saw it. Did anybody else see my matches recently? Yeah. Who saw my match at Atlanta where unfortunately broke the guy? You saw that one? Okay. It was off of. I got there from the front headlock. So we were here. He was super low. He didn't want me to get at his legs. So I came up here. I got a front headlock, and as soon as I got here, what he did was he went on both his legs. Yep. He went on both his legs. Okay. And from there, we're gonna look at connecting into leg attacks. Okay. So when we get here and he comes up to his legs, there's 2 main ways we can connect into leg attack. Let's look at the simpler way first. So he turns this way. Keep going. All the way. Yeah. Good. All right. So the simpler way is going to be like so. He comes up, and now I'm going to come around, and I grab the calf here. Okay. Now my right hand is going to go from his chin to this hip, and I'm going to pull in to a shin on shin. From here, I elevate, and I extend into a standard option. Okay. From here, we have all sorts of attacks. Okay. Let's look at a very basic one. So we take this leg, I'm going to reap over the top, take my other leg out, we cross and connect our ankles. Now that pressure to the back of his knee, if you guys were at the first session, you remember this is one of the main mechanics we use to gain heel exposure against an upright person. I can now expose his heel. Okay, we start with a false grip, like so. So as a false grip is a grip like this, here where my palm faces into the heel. And then we roll in this direction, we crunch our body in, we throw our legs to the outside, grab the knee, and you have a really strong position to finish an outside grip. Okay? So we'll look at that again. So this specific sequence, Palhares did against. Have you guys ever seen that match where Palhares? It was the very famous heel hook reset. Where he got the heel hook.
Oh yeah, that's Abu Dhabi.
Yeah, it was against David Avalon.
Yeah.
So this is how we got to David Avalon's leg. You started a front headlock, and then you chained the front headlock into the legs with Avalon defending the front headlock. So we'll come back over here. we're here, and then that match happened was Avalon came up. Players came through like this, got to a Standarashi, reeked, caught the heel, they rolled. What happened was they actually rolled out of bounds in that match. But then they reset them and he just finished. They reset them in a heel. So obviously you got
With Paul Harris.
Yeah, terrible. With Paul Harris. With Paul. Yeah, so one more time. So we're gonna be here, I come up, I get this front headlock, and he sometimes it'll happen, like for instance, you could be like going behind him, right? Let's say you go for the arm lock, go behind, he steps up, and we can chain into this attack. Okay? And now here we read, catch the heel, roll, and we get the outside heel. Okay? Make sense? Just try not to fall onto your shoulder. Stay up on your shoulder, it's gonna facilitate stronger finishes. Okay, make sense? Yeah, alright, let's get started. 1, 2, 3.
I wouldn't be here today if the old school didn't pave the way. What more can I say? I wouldn't be here today if the old school didn't pave the way.
Cooking soul.
Ain't nothing like the
What
old
more can I
school.
say? I wouldn't be here today if the old school.
I remember Mr. Magic Flash, Grandmaster Cass, LL raising hell, but I didn't last. Every D and Rock Kim was the shit to me. I flipped to see a Dougie Fresh show with Ricky D and Red Alert was putting in work. And Chuck Chill had my homies on the hill getting ill when shit was real. What I still remember raw with Daddy Kane when De La Soul was putting potholes in the game. I can't explain how it was. Houdini had me puffing on that Buddha getting buzzed. Cause still I was them block parties in the projects and on my block. If you don't stop sipping on that private stock and through my speaker Queen Latifah and MC Light, listen to Tracks of KRS to get me through the night. With Tiller Rockin' Mantronics and Stetsasonics. Remember when shit was the bomb shit, nothing like the
What
old
more
school.
can I say? I wouldn't be here today if the old school didn't pave the
Nothing
way.
like the
What
old
more can I
school.
say? I wouldn't be